Powered by Sports Interaction.
All right. Welcome back to Game Over. My name is Zach Weil. I'm joined by my friend Dennis Li. And on a night where I feel like I have about as much energy as the Oilers had tonight, we are here to break down the game anyways. Tonight I thought at least, it was a tough game tonight. It was a really tough game to watch tonight. On a night that Connor McDavid, it's really sad that on a night that Connor McDavid played, the most entertaining thing that I saw was the Katy Perry skip the dishes commercial. So it's really tough, but besides we're not here to break down commercials. We're going to break down the 11-7 decision. What is going on with the lack of the Oilers' sharpness? What is wrong with Leon Draisaitl? Because this is even though he has 6 points, completely uncharacteristic games. And, are you concerned with where the Oilers are at right now and going forward? Where's your at? Where's your level of belief at in the team? But before we get all into all that, I have a message from our friends at Sports Interaction. Want to bet? You can do it at Sports Interaction, Canada's sportsbook. Football continues. The World Series is around the corner, and they have dropped the puck on the hockey season. Bet pregame, live and play, or on one of our many prop bets. Made for Canadians, by Canadians. Sports Interaction makes it easy to deposit, play, and cash out. Join now to see all that sports betting has to offer. Head to sportsinteraction.com/SDPN. That's sportsinteraction.com/SDPN. Ontario only, 19+. Please play responsibly. All right, now that we have that out of the way, where do you want to get started?
Well, Zach, I think it's clear. Once again, Edmonton doesn't play a whole 60 minutes. We have some great input from the chat. It's very annoying. Stone One brings up a great point. The last 5 minutes was amazing. If we played the last 60 minutes like that last 5 minutes, it would have been an easy Oilers victory. The Russell in front of the net was one of the better goals I've seen from anyone out of a Oiler uniform this year. A hard, gritty type of goal that it's not going to make the highlight reel. We'll talk about another goal that did later on. But that's the type of goal you need to win games. And earlier on in the first period, second period, it didn't seem like the Oilers wanted to play that type of game. What they did do was come in too little too late, and now we're stuck with 1-2 score on the season.
Well, what I think it is something that you brought up on the last broadcast, and I thought it was actually a great point because it's something the Oilers have done for a long time now. They play down to their competition, and even though they came in completely struggling in the first two games, regardless of the outcome in the first one, they show up and they're trying to play way too pretty. They're making way too many passes across the ice. And if I, as a viewer, a layman on the couch, can see what you're trying to do, then obviously these NHL players, these guys that have played hockey their entire lives, and the Sabres are a good team, like make no mistake about it, they are going to be able to see what you're doing and they're going to be able to put their sticks in the lane and stop it. And that's exactly what happened through the entire first period. It was the same story as it was against Calgary. There were no passes that were connecting. There was sloppy play up and down the ice, the defensive zone, the offensive zone, you name it. It was atrocious. It was garbage hockey. I frankly don't expect this from this team. And I know we're only 3 games into the season, but it's not an excuse anymore. I don't know why they start games like this. And the thing is, tonight, it wasn't even that bad of a start. In the first period, I think they finished the first period out-shooting the Sabres 15-6. But it wasn't a dominant 15-6. What are your thoughts?
But here's what I want to bring up, and you bring up a good point. It was a better start than the last 2 games for sure. I think Steve Mennett in the chat also echoed that as well. They came out decent, but the issue is when the Oilers were playing poorly, it was a duality of a first period. You would have these fantastic rushes, you would have these fantastic plays, but on the other hand, you would have horrible giveaways right down the center of the ice, leading to partial breaks, full breaks. Agreed, we had a better start. 15-7 is obviously better. Going into the second period, tied 1-1 is better. But against a Buffalo team with mostly rookie skaters and a couple of veterans, you really expect the Oilers to come out and dominate the competition, not just play decent.
These are games the Oilers, if they are going to achieve what we all believe they are capable of achieving, these are games they absolutely cannot blow. You cannot blow this. You have to win these games. It is indefensible when you play this bad. Like, you have the two of the three indisputed best players in the world, and to watch one of them, and I love him, and he can do almost no wrong, but like at some point, someone's got to say, what is wrong with Leon Draisaitl? It makes no sense. And he had some mistakes more in the second period that we'll get into in a bit. But if you look at the first period, what I think is a good like summation of the events and everything is there was a play where the Oilers are breaking in, and Evan Bouchard had an odd man rush, and he toe dragged a defender, and he was going in prime lane to shoot. He has probably the best shot on the team, or at least the hardest shot on the team, if not one of the most accurate shots on the team. And he's maybe 10, 15 feet out from the net. And what does he do? He passes off to the side. I can't remember if it was Warren Fogle or Connor McDavid, who gets just a garbage shot from a horrible angle. It's not going to do anything. Comrie's not going to make a mistake on that. And the play goes the other way. So yeah, you outshot the team 15-6. I couldn't tell you maybe one grade A chance. I mean, I will say Evander Kane had a ton of grade A chances. We're getting to a point.
The whole team was snake bitten today on offense. We had so many chances. You bring up a great point about Kane, but first I wanted to touch upon not Holloway. Sorry. I wanted to touch upon Bouchard. Mm-hmm. You're right. There was that partial rush. He had a great clear shooting lane from a guy who has a great shot, but Bouchard looked past and went and dished it back. I think it was amazing how Bouchard is able to fit pucks through 3-4 guys and just get it on net. But when he has a clear look like that, I think he doesn't have to look for the fancy play. Go ahead and take a shot. I wanted to say, even in my notes, I wrote that, he had some confidence going into this game. He was shooting pucks. He had confidence ripping one right off the faceoff dot on the very next shift. But then he dishes off sometimes. He goes ahead and makes these odd plays where he defers. Mm-hmm. And we're now looking at just a team that maybe doesn't have their mojo, doesn't have their confidence with them. The entire defensive core, the entire offensive core, this entire game just showed a lack of mojo.
You just don't know where it's coming from though, because this should be on paper and from everything we've seen in the past, like they are not different. There's not, it's not like Calgary where they're trying to fit in two new top six players. They've been together. Most of these guys, besides Kane, have been together for years now. Like should be that inherent chemistry there, and it's just something we're not seeing. Now, I don't know. We can get into this because this obviously had an impact on the game. Woodcroft made the decision tonight to go 11-7. And I thought going into the game that, what? I said on the last broadcast, I thought it would be Philip Broberg. I was wrong. You were right. It was Niemelainen. Whatever. Point for Dennis. But I will say I thought it was a good decision because I thought the Oilers were and I would never thought I would say this, but clearly they're missing what Duncan Keith had last year. They had someone who they could play 20 minutes a night. Yeah, he'd get blown by on an odd man rush. Yeah, he wasn't the best.
The old man legs.
Exactly. He was a slow skater, but he, for the most part, was steady. You knew exactly what you were going to get from Duncan Keith. And this year, there's been a noticeable gap on the left side on the second pairing. I know Kulak was brought in. He's supposed to step up into that role. Through 3 games he hasn't, so I thought, or through 2 games he hasn't, so I thought going 11-7 would be a really good idea. And because the ability for Woodcroft would be he's able to take those 7 defensemen, he's able to spread out their minutes, and he's able to make up for that what they're missing through us just distributing the minutes by committee, right? And I
think there would be truth to that going through by committee. I think 11-7 has worked before for Woodcroft in the past, but looking at this game, I thought Niemelainen didn't actually play very well. He came in, everyone expected the big hits, the physicality, and Niemelainen didn't really bring that. He got burned on 1 goal, I believe. And in the end, he played sub 10 minutes. Well sub, I believe, maybe around like 8 minutes.
Through 2 periods of play, Marcus Niemelainen was on the ice for 3 minutes and 40 seconds. And I'm sorry, I don't at some point, it doesn't matter how bad you're playing. You Holloway, we can talk about Marcus Niemelainen didn't bring the hit, but who was it on Buffalo? It was Ilya Lyubushkin. Smoked Dylan Holloway, takes him out of the lineup. All of a sudden, you're 10-7 now. And
I want to quickly jump on that point because a lot of people saw that play. A lot of people saw Fogel come in and defend the rookie. You want to protect your rookies, but this is one of the things that really irks me. Fogel knew he actually fucked up on that play.
Mm-hmm.
There was well, trigger warning for this word. There was a suicide pass from Fogel from the goal line, and Holloway's looking down backwards to trying to find where this pass is going to come from. And that just lets Lyubushkin walk right into him. Clean hit, but from Fogel, you got to know that this is a rookie. Do you want to be throwing these passes out there like that?
Yeah.
I think other than that play, Fogel actually played pretty well this game. I saw that he was physical. He had some hustle. He had 2 shots on the night. But at the same time, it's just too little, too late for the rest of the team. I feel like this is a game where the Oilers' big guns, who are all supposed to show up, just didn't. And you mentioned Draisaitl. I have a working theory that I sort of mentioned on the last podcast, that maybe there's some sort of a bug, nothing that takes a player out of it, but just a minor flu or cold that's being passed around the room.
Mm-hmm.
And that allows the players just to not play to their full potential, not that we usually get to see them at.
I mean, I hope it's something, because Draisaitl it's so uncharacteristic of Leon Draisaitl. He was voted one of the best passers in the NHL by his fellow players, right? And to see in the second period, both goals, Tage Thompson strips Draisaitl, goes the other way, makes a we can argue if it was a weak defensive play by Nurse or a bad goal by Skinner, have your pick. But overall, Draisaitl made a bad play on that goal. And then you look at the next goal where JJ Peterka gets a giveaway. Draisaitl going to pass 80 or 100 feet across the ice to Yamamoto. It's obviously going to get picked off, and JJ Peterka goes the other way and gets a breakaway goal on Skinner. And I know I saw someone in the chat say, I think it was Barbara Hopkins, say another sub 900 goaltending night. I mean, I was looking at the goals. Besides the first goal by Dahlin, even though it was a 4-on-3 power play, there might have been a flyby screen, although it was a shot, 25, 30 feet out. You would like to see Skinner make that save. Again, not the end of the world just because of the situation. I don't think it was Skinner's fault. I just noticed with the defense, there's just something about the overall physicality, and I noticed that was a theme in their press conferences coming into the game. They're talking about playing physical, playing harder, playing tougher. And when they got into the game, you saw that. We saw 4 minutes in, they come out, Kane, goes really hard on the forecheck, and then all of a sudden, Brett Kulak and again, I think it was Peyton Krebs. No, Peyton Krebs gets a roughing penalty, and Brett Kulak gets the double minor with one of the Sabres forwards, and they were coming out to trying to play tougher, and in the end it just didn't work. They're trying to get themselves in the game, but they weren't doing what I think the Oilers, they weren't playing to their identity, they weren't playing to their strengths. They were trying to go outside of what they are, and it bit them in the ass.
I absolutely agree. I think out of the three goals that Skinner had to go past him tonight, I think only the first one would be one that he really wants to have back. Mm-hmm. The second goal by Tage Thompson, that's a filthy goal. I can recognize when other teams have very nice goals, and it brought back memories of Connor McDavid walking Morgan Rielly, and how many times have we seen that highlight? How many times it's going to be played on Sportsnet right after this? I mean, it's a bad look for Nurse, who
I will say for any other player
frequently gets flack for his contract.
But sorry, I was going to say, for any other player, the goal is, it's not even talked about as a bad goal, but because it's the $9.25 million man on defense there, he's 6'4", he's supposed to be their big, tough, physical guy. And you have to give credit to Thompson. It was a fantastic move. And Thompson himself is a giant human, right? So we can't just blame it all on Nurse. Yeah, you'd like him to be stronger. And I saw they were pointing this out on the broadcast, he should have blocked out Thompson, whatever. And Thompson ended up getting inside, and his giant reach went right around Skinner. It was unfortunate, but you can't, those aren't the problems. Even if those goals all would go in, the Oilers, if they came in and played their game, should have won this game. No problem. If they came with that urgency that they showed in the last 10 minutes of the third period, this game wouldn't have even been in a contest. If they showed that throughout the entire game. But they didn't. They showed up flat. It was such a disappointment. I think the first period was it was a little bit phony. Like, I feel like that's a good word for the start, you know? It looks good on paper, but if you watch the game, besides Evander Kane flubbing a few chances, there was not much really there whatsoever. And I saw people talking about this in the chat earlier, and I know we also touched on it, but I think we should just give our opinions. What did you think of the hit on Dylan Holloway? Was it dirty? Was it clean? Is it a suspension?
I think it's a clean hit. I mean, the dangerous part of the situation was not necessarily the hit. There's some debate as to whether he left his feet or not, but I think the biggest part that caused it to be such a gigantic hit was the fact that Fogel gave him a pass that came from behind Holloway, causing him to need to turn his head, therefore putting him in a vulnerable position. When you see something coming, when you see a body coming to impact you, you can brace yourself, you can prepare yourself. But when you're limp, you're not expecting it, you're just trying to focus on a task, every sort of impact will hit twice as hard. And I really hope that Holloway is okay. I don't know if it was the snap of the head. I don't know if it's a concussion protocol thing, but he was gone for the rest of the game. And you're right. When you're playing 11-7, suddenly you're down an extra forward. That makes it extra rough.
I wouldn't be shocked at all if he had a concussion, and it's something we saw from Ilya Lyubushkin last year when he was on the Leafs. You know, he has a tendency to stand people up the blue line and lay giant hits. I did, even though I'm on Louis' side, I'm a little old school like that. I did not mind the response from Fogel. I did think it was a bad pass in the first part, so he probably did feel a little bit of guilt, like you were saying. The problem with that hit is Holloway was skating forward. He was looking back. He was in that like hunched over stance. And Lyubushkin is, again, another one of those giant humans on the Buffalo D-line. So he made contact with the head. But to me, even as one of the most biased Oilers fans, it's incidental contact. Maybe a fine I could see just, to appease the masses. But no matter what happens, people are going to be mad. If he gets suspended, he's mad. If he doesn't get suspended, people are mad, right? And overall, like, I don't think that even played. And actually, you know what? Full credit to Dylan Holloway. There was a shift earlier in the first. I will say, you could sort of see the confidence slowly coming. He was on the ice with McLeod and Fogel. He was holding onto the puck for an extra second. He made a good play in the offensive zone. I think he had 2 shifts back to back. And I noted them. I said, okay, that's really good to see. You could tell there are nerves coming in. There's a lot. He's playing his home province. He wants to make a good impression. He knows there is a lot of pressure on him to succeed because the Oilers are so cap strapped. And it's not like they're bringing in another forward. He knows the role that he needs to fill. And I think he was slowly going in. It was a little slower than I think we all anticipated watching him in the preseason. So it's just such a shame to see him knocked out like that. And I do truly hope he's okay. But yeah, no, it was just such a rough period. Unfortunately, that was where it all fell apart, right?
Right. Question by KG Slosh in the chat. How did Comrie look? I think Eric Comrie in his first game in his hometown looked amazing. It was an absolutely lights out performance by him. 958 save percentage. And it's always strange, right? You expect someone who's coming to play at home to maybe have the nerves. He's obviously in his home, but at the same time an enemy barn. It's this weird mix. His family's watching, but he stepped up, and boy, did he just absolutely shut the door. I mean, that second goal where it was an absolute war in front of the net's not really his fault. The first goal, well, yeah, maybe, but that was off of a rush. And I think that he played an outstanding game tonight. What do you think, Zach?
Maybe I'm biased, but I thought Comrie looked good. But again, I thought it was the Oilers making him look good. There were so many chances. There were so many wide shots. Like you saw McDavid come close. He hits Comrie square in the chest. The rebound falls down, and McDavid shoots it wide. That's so uncharacteristic for Connor McDavid. There are so many instances where, especially, again, I'm going to go back to that last 10 minutes in the third period when the Oilers just realized, oh, if we shoot, we get chances. And they just start putting everything on net. And you saw Comrie just start letting rebound out after rebound and rebound and rebound. And frankly, I do think they were lucky to come out with the W there. Like the Oilers easily could have scored another goal on him. There was rebounds galore. There was a chance, and it's the same thing as Bouchard. The Kane had, he was coming down the wing. He had a full line to the net where he should have shot it, and he tries to hit McDavid backdoor. I think that's one of the problems that a lot of these players have who are relatively, newer. They come in, and there's always that like younger player like Dylan Holloway. I understand when he defers to the veteran line mates, but a lot of players who are veterans in the NHL, they come in and they're playing with Connor, and they get overwhelmed by his greatness and everything, and they try and hit him and they try and pass to him when he's not in a position to receive a pass because they think there's a better play. He can make a better play. And well, that's the case, frankly, we're being honest. It's the case probably, 40, 50% of the time. There's a time and a place. You got to shoot the puck. And Kane didn't do that. You saw he missed a couple grade A's. He probably lost his own confidence. And then he started deferring to Connor. And that also cost him the game. Again, I'm going to say this till I die, until the Oilers start winning games. These teams are not beating the Oilers. The Oilers are beating the Oilers. It's all self-inflicted. As Peter Chiarelli used to say, death by 1,000 cuts. That's what it is.
One point of contention with Steve Mennett in the chat, no one in front of the net, no screens. He saw every shot. I think the Oilers actually ended up going for a bit more of a net fronts presence towards the later half of the game. The problem is there was just no finish tonight. And you saw the amount of times that a rebound came out. Kane couldn't bury it. McDavid couldn't bury rebounds. I think Fogle, McLeod, Yamo, Draisaitl, everyone had opportunities in front of the net, and it just would not go in. It's a little bit of puck luck. I know that's a horrible excuse, but honestly, I just felt that every offensive player was snake bitten tonight. Even the goals that went in, one was off of a transition game, or once was off of the transition game, which Buffalo then shut down pretty heavy-handedly. And the second one was off of an absolute scrum where McDavid, with just an absolutely amazing set of hands, does that little backhand pass over to Nuge, and that was just a yawning cage. Again, those aren't goals that, well, maybe the first one was, but the second one's not a goal that Comrie's supposed to get. So I think give him credit where credit's due. Eric Comrie played a very good game.
Yeah, and that's a fair point. I think he did. It's just tough seeing someone like Eric Comrie come in and do this to others because, again, and I said this earlier, when you have the best players in the world, getting goalied isn't an excuse. If we were the New Jersey Devils, yeah, you know what? You got beat by a good goalie, we'll tip your cap, you move on to the next game. But where the Oilers want to be and where they should be going, it is so unacceptable to get goalied by Eric Comrie. And I saw someone saying, put respect on Comrie's name. I'm sorry. I just can't do that. He was Winnipeg's backup goalie last year. Frankly, he plays for Buffalo. And again, Buffalo, full respect, I don't think anyone outside of Buffalo expects them to be a playoff team. They are a very good team. Lines 1 through 4, they have people who can score. They have the makings to be probably in 2 to 3 years one of the best defenses in the NHL. But right now, they're just not there. This is a team the Oilers should have dismantled, and it didn't happen, and I'm pissed.
Zach, there's a reason why Buffalo is an NHL team and not an AHL team. Mm-hmm. No matter how many young players that you think are on here that belong in the AHL, they are playing in the NHL, and they beat the Oilers tonight. Honestly, you can say tons of things. You can give any number of reasons, but I think that we have to acknowledge there is two parties here. Mm-hmm. Buffalo played well, and Edmonton just did not. I wanted to point out one quick piece here. We had a decent amount of power plays, but Barry captained all of them. What do you think about Bouchard? When is he going to get time on PP1?
It's got to be coming. And Muffs in the chat says, why does Edmonton have 4 lefties on PP1? Now, I don't even think the 4 lefties is the issue. They've been together for years, and I think 2 of the last 3 years, they were the top power play in the NHL by like a considerable margin too, not just by like 0.2%. The 4 lefties, like, where are you going to take off McDavid? Like, the 4 lefties are fine. It's the defenseman. And honestly, for a long time, the Oilers ran 5 lefties on the power play with Clefbaum at the top, and it was an awesome power play. Tyson Barrie has hit the edge of Niagara Falls, and he has started to fall off. I know he was bad last year, and I know he's been the whipping boy for a bit, but watching him try and hold the blue line, watching break, like, what Buffalo have 6 breakaways this game? Like, that's unacceptable. How is that keep happening?
Full breaks.
I don't care. 2-on-1. Buffalo should not be getting that many odd man rushes. The Oilers are one of the best skating teams in the NHL. Obviously Colorado's the cream of the crop, but I put the Oilers right in that next tier. And to watch their defensemen just get caught flat-footed in the zone, up the ice, like, what are you doing? Don't stop focusing on offense. And I saw Ryan Murray didn't do it as much today. I still saw him. I'll admit the guy has some nice hands, better than I thought coming in. But unacceptable. Tyson Barrie should not be there. He can't hold the zone. There's shorthanded chances galore when he's on the ice. Bouchard needs to be there. He is so good. I think if he just realized how good he was and had that confidence, because I am confident that he has a lack of confidence, because you see at the end of the game when he just says, fuck it, I'm shooting. And you saw the chaos that ensued when he unleashed that 92 mile per hour shot on Eric Comrie. No one knows where the puck is. The Oilers are jamming away, and that's one that didn't go in, but so easily could have. 2 or 3 more of those a game, Bouchard's going to score 20 goals, and he'll probably, get 20 assists just on rebounds that people tap in. I did see in the chat that Travis Slotner said pool party with a decent game. Love seeing him step up. And I actually noted that. I thought this was Jesse Puljujarvi's best game of the season. Mm-hmm. I thought, and again, when the players that I write down as bright spots aren't, okay, Connor played good. Connor was Connor. Forget about Connor. But when I write down Jesse and Yamamoto as 2 of my bright parts in the game, that's
Semi-Fogel -1 pass.
I had Fogel down. I had Fogel down here too. I just, you kind of talked me out of it with that whole Holloway play. But in the first period, I will say I noted that Yamamoto and Fogel bring a different dimension of depth. Fogel's essentially Zach Hyman light. His play in the offensive zone, when he gets that forecheck, if he just had a little more finish and a little more drive to the net, he could easily, tap in 20 goals, 10 assists. He could be a really effective bottom 6 player. But it's just a little bit more. What do you got to say about it, Dennis?
Just in the chat, we have a little bit of a pity party here. Mm-hmm. Awesome Matthews, Oilers. You know what? Toronto, the Oilers, every Canadian team so far has had an awful start to the season, with one exception who shall not be named. But every other Canadian team is just having an absolutely brutal start. And who is it a Bettman curse? Who knows? This is, in the end, the beginning of the season. We expect all of our teams to pick up a little bit. We don't expect to be losing to Buffalo, Arizona, but in the meantime, it seems like we just have this awful curse right now for all the Canadian teams. What do you think about that?
Listen, I would put this game in the exact same boat as Toronto's game against Buffalo. It wasn't as heartbreaking. Both teams equally deserve to lose. The Oilers played just as bad as the Leafs. I watched the game. They had those long stretches of pressure, but nothing came of it. Very similar, very comparable. Like you, I fully agree. And this was going to be my next question. How do you feel going forward? Are you worried? Are you standing at the edge of the cliff? Where are your feelings at? Because for me, I am definitely closer to the edge of the cliff than I thought. It's so easy at the beginning of this. We saw it last year. Just as easily as you can build a lead that can give you a buffer for the rest of the season, you could fall behind and be out of the playoffs by November. It doesn't matter who's on your team because there's so much parity in the NHL. And frankly, I am getting a bit worried. There's some very concerning trends here, and we talked about a lot of them, but where's your head at?
I would lie if I would say I'm not worried at all. But this is the beginning of a very early season. And honestly, the players we know can play better. We know that this is not what Woodcroft excels at. Woodcroft is... he piloted the team to one of the best records in the NHL once he took over. I think there's just an adjustment period here. There's nothing to worry about. If things proceed past the first 10 games, then absolutely Ken Holland needs to do something. But at the current timeline, I think we can hold off. No need for a blockbuster trade. Wait for trade deadline, if so. Obviously, I think the D-corps is still the weakest part of the team.
Agreed.
But our forwards are underproducing. I feel like I still have faith in Campbell, Skinner. Soup and Stew, I feel like can play a lot better. But in the meantime, we've just had this weird start, and I expect to regress back to a mean, back into a little bit more of a winning stance for the Oilers.
There was a game last season, early on in Jay Woodcroft's tenure, where the Oilers, I can't remember who they were playing, but they lost the game. And after the game in his post-game press conference, Woodcroft said, I was not at my best tonight. He took full responsibility for the loss. He said he didn't like the way he was sending players on the ice, and there was a number of things he didn't like about the way he approached that game that night, and he will be better going forward. I fully expect Jay Woodcroft to recognize what the mistakes are. He's the smartest coach the Oilers have had in maybe since Craig McTavish. Like, I fully expect him to know what's going on going forward, and I expect him to make those changes. And I think we started to see that tonight. 11-7, I like the idea. I like the motivation. I don't think with the current makeup of the decor it's going to work. You might just have to bite the bullet and maybe, like you said, down the line, make a trade for someone. I don't know how they'll do that, but whatever. Yeah, it's just a tough thing it's just a tough thing right now. No one knows what direction they're going, and I'm hoping that Jay Woodcroft can, get his way out of it.
Absolutely. We're coming up to the end of the show. Zach, one thing to talk about. Do you want to go first, or shall I?
Well, here, I was just gonna say I can go first for sure. My thing is just going into the next game, talking about the starters, right? Like, I would go back to Campbell. Even if Skinner pitched a shutout this game, I would have gone back to Campbell. I think I said it last game, you don't want to start, messing with his head, messing with his confidence, make Jack Campbell, because Jack Campbell can get very introspective and can't get on himself, and, a lot of his issues can be mental. We don't want to start that. We go back to Campbell that next game. I would go 11-6. I'd call up Broberg. I personally would scratch Ryan Murray. I'm not a fan of his game. I think he's way too all over the place. I don't think he's what the Oilers need. I think we got to give that shot to Philip Broberg. Like, I would just waive Murray, call up Broberg, and call that a done deal. But what I was going to say is we do need to be careful, because the next couple games, it's Carolina, St. Louis, Pittsburgh.
A real murderer's row coming up here into Edmonton. I'll take things into a little bit of a lighter dimension.
Mm-hmm.
Buffalo has my favorite player names out of any team in the NHL.
JJ Peterka.
JJ Peterka, Middlestat,
Mm-hmm.
Vinny Hinostroza, Zemgus Girgensons. And you know what? It's a shame he's not in the NHL yet, but I can't wait to be saying Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen every night.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, you're totally right. They're such a fun team, and I do like Peyton Krebs. He's one of the best. He's one of my favorite players to watch. Jack Quinn, he scratched tonight, but he's gonna be good. They have Matthew Savoy. Carter Savoy's in the Oilers system. Yeah, no, they're a fun team to watch. But man, I don't watch anyone like the Oilers, and tonight, I can't lie, I'm going to bed pretty disappointed. Hopefully against Carolina, they come out better, and I'm really nervous going into that game, but I do have faith in Woodcroft, I do have faith in Campbell, and I do have faith in, the most importantly, Connor McDavid. So going forward, I think we should be fine, but I'll be the first one ringing the alarm bell after the Pittsburgh game to see what happens. But I'm glad you brought the show.
Faith.
I'm glad you brought the show here. We got 3 minutes left in the Zoom call, so I think it's time to bring the show to the end. All right, Dennis, where can they find you?
At Dennis Li, YEG on Twitter.
Yeah,
and Zach, where can they find you?
You can find me at ZWheel97 on Twitter. Me and Dennis will be back here hosting, I think, for one of the last times together this season, which is kind of sad next game. I'm looking forward to it, and I can't wait to be back there next game, hopefully breaking down finally a win. For
the Oilers. All right. Well, next game is Thursday, the 20th at 7:00 against Carolina. We'll be right back after that show. We'll be right back after that game around 9:30. This has been fun, Zach. Thank you so much for coming on, and be sure to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss another broadcast. And if you like to hear it but don't want to look at our faces, check us out on Spotify.
Yeah, absolutely. Have a good night, Dennis. Have a good night, chat, and we will be back here breaking down an Oilers victory.